Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. And they all have one thing in common. Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
And hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Cosmic Tuesdays. I am your host, Anthony Pico, as I always am, and it is January 14th, 2019, and this is the second show on my new station, and I hope I'm being heard clearly and wonderfully. I don't see anybody in the chat room yet, so join me when you're ready, people. And just a brief mention, some astrological stuff. Right now, there's a lot of stuff going on in Capricorn, a lot of heavy stuff going on in Capricorn. Pluto's in Capricorn, Saturn's in Capricorn. So there's kind of an intensity of kind of change, and we can feel it. I mean, I think all of us have been feeling a little kind of suppressed and cranky and high energy lately, fighting back. So that's something to be aware of. And I just do want to mention that. As I've mentioned in earlier shows, Uranus is going into Taurus very shortly, and when that happens, for the next 7 years, it's going to be a shift in chaos. And what I mean by that is that Uranus is often the planet of sudden change and chaos and freedom and new ideas. And what happens is it's going to go into Taurus, and that's going to be a little tricky. It's been in Aries, and Aries is more than willing to charge ahead. Taurus, however, is a little stubborn and isn't in a rush to move or do anything. So there's going to be a bit of a struggle, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have quiet periods and explosions, so to speak, over the next 6-7 years. Taurus is about values. On a basic level, it's about money and what things are worth. But on a deeper level, it's about what do we value? What are the things in the physical world that mean something to us? So we may find ourselves changing some of our values over the next 7 years, and we will see what happens with that. Now, tonight, I'm going to get right into the show. Tonight, I have, as a guest, Daniel Teague. Daniel Teague has been with me in the past on what's an earlier version of the show, and he's also back again now. It hasn't been on the show for 3 years, and Daniel is an empath, an energy healer, just all kinds of, he's going to have to talk about it. So, Daniel, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you. Do you hear me?
Welcome aboard. I can hear you fine. So hopefully everything is going well. And let it rip. Welcome aboard. One of the things I think is always worth talking about with you is the start of how you developed your abilities, because it's kind of startling to me. So if you want to let it rip, how did this come about?
Okay, so I didn't start this way. I grew up as a regular kid. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. And back in the 1990s, I was in high school, and I was a shy kid. And shy in the aspect that I couldn't really talk to strangers, couldn't generate new conversation with people. I was kind of a follower in conversations. So I was in high school. I was 18. I was a senior in high school. And, one dreaded day in 1992, I had a car accident that I actually have no memory of. Even to this day, I can't say that an accident actually took place. I was told that I was knocked unconscious and brought to a hospital, and there I stayed in a coma for about a week.
Oh boy.
And I came out of the coma, and I knew that something had happened, but I wasn't clear with what exactly. I mean, they told me I'd been in an accident, and I had a lot of injuries, and I had to recover from them. but something that I knew something had changed. Something felt weird within myself, but I couldn't place it. So I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks later, I get out of the hospital. I start my recovery process, and I realized that one aspect of my personality had seriously changed. I had lost the shyness in myself. And I'm not going to say I was a crazy outgoing person, but it was more of an outgoing type of personality versus the shy. And I couldn't figure out how, for the life of me, how does a personality switch from a car accident? And I can't say it was the wreck, and I don't know if it's coma. I don't know. But the entire event, that's kind of where this is headed. Fast forwarding, 20 plus years, I mean, I was identified by therapists and hypnotherapists and psychiatrists. They said I had the classic symptoms and signs of a walk-in. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. But they told me essentially on a prior agreement level, your soul switched during this accident level. I mean, it's weird to hear from another side.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But stepping backwards, going back, I had some weird attributes come out of the, after I recovered. It took me about a year to recover. But once I was back up on my feet, so to speak, I gained a skill that mediums would resonate with, but I didn't like it. I had a voice start talking to me out of the blue. And I'm also going to fast forward a little bit. So what I've determined with the voices is it's actually my own voice. However, when other things want to communicate with me, they manipulate my own voice. So it sounds like a different voice. They're just changing the pitch, and they're changing frequencies.
Okay.
So going back down, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but I had a voice pop up, start to talk to me, and to be honest, it scared the crap out of me because I couldn't figure out who it was, and it's a little mind-altering. However, at the time, the voice wouldn't just come on all the time. It would be specific times. So one specific event was, and I'm just going to stick with this one event, or a couple events. So when people said that they were going to come out and visit for holidays, the voice would pop on and say, I don't think so. And I could never figure out why it would say this to me. But then the reality would hit during the time of these people coming out for holidays. They wouldn't actually make it. They would be in car accidents, or something would happen so they couldn't come out. So that scared the crap out of me again, saying, oh my goodness, this thing's predicting the future. But the reality is I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. I didn't want it. And honestly, I blocked it. And it stayed. It took me a while to block out. So going forward, the voice settled down and it didn't come back. Going forward from there, another attribute from this incident happened, that movie theaters. I don't know why.
Movie theater, okay.
Every time I went to a movie theater at night, I would have an out-of-body experience on the exit. So the movie would end, I would go out through the exit doors at night, and then instantly I'm out of my body, and I'm like, oh my God, am I dying? I couldn't figure it out, and the people I'm with, what am I going to tell them? I had no idea how to even articulate what I was experiencing. What I actually felt was I wasn't having the classic out-of-body experience where you're looking at yourself in the third person. What I was actually experiencing was a free-floating sensation within myself. So I didn't feel like I was locked into my body. I felt like I was kind of airy and bubbly. I don't know. And I'm not talking personality. I'm talking almost a physical layer.
Like your energy was bubbling in a way. Is that a good way?
Well, I don't know. It's so hard to explain because I literally, they caught me out. I mean, they called me. They said, "What are you doing?" I literally had my hand in front of my face and I'm shaking it. Like, is this really my body? So I look like I'm drunk.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're good. And then that would be the end of it. And it would actually, the experiences went on for quite a while. But the actual sensation, so from leaving the movie theater till I got to the car seemed to be the safe haven. So as soon as I reached the car, everything would stop and return to normal. I've never been honestly able to figure it out to this day, other than it's just like an adaptation period. So So whatever it is that I've just gone through, it's kind of like part of the process.
Now, just a quick aside here. Somebody in the chat room was asking specifically. They're trying to get a handle on what a walk-in actually is. Do you remember being shy? Do you remember the stuff before the accident? But is it very distant?
I remember being shy. When I say shy, this doesn't really have to do with friends and family. This is more about new situations and new strangers that I would have to be in the presence of. In the past, I would never be able, other than asking for the time, I couldn't just generate conversation on the fly. Post-accident, I could, with no explanation.
Okay. So yeah, continue. I guess it's a good thing this stuff stopped when you got in the car, because I could see a state trooper pulling you over, and you're going to say, "Well, I'm driving while being spiritual, so excuse me."
Exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the movie theater experience actually settled down. I don't remember. I mean, it's been so long.
Yeah.
I think it lasted maybe 6 or 7 months. How often I went to a movie, I don't remember. But I realized that it was only happening at night, so I started to go during the daytime, on the weekends, to go to the movies. And the experiences stopped, all cold turkey. So I, for the longest time, refused to go to the movies at night. And it worked for me because everything ceased. And I don't recall that actually ever occurring again. So, and I don't know who was in control of that. There's a lot I don't know. I can only explain, or try and explain what I personally went through.
Right, not necessarily knowing what created it, but just what you felt and sensed and saw. And
sure.
Heard. Yeah.
And then I don't think anything really happened after that. And there was about a 10-year gap where I tried to just restart my life and get on with it, and that was it. And nothing really, I don't recall anything in that time frame that anything other major happened. And honestly, so 92 was the wreck, and it wasn't honestly until the early 2000s that things started to change again.
Do you have any idea of what might have been making that change again? Or it just started happening and you were there, here we go, you know?
Well, I somehow mentally blocked everything from doing its ramp up. And I was happy. I was good with that. But when the early 2000s, I'm going to tell you what it is, where it started to come back is I had gotten into a lot of these popular paranormal ghost hunting TV shows got generated. And they were all over television, and there was a curiosity in it. So I started watching these shows. And it was, I was in the Florida area, and I was on vacation. It was St. Augustine. I think this is around 2002-ish, 2003. And so I'm in St. Augustine, and there's a fort in St. Augustine, a Spanish war fort.
Right, pretty famous.
Yeah, so I was down there with family, and we agreed to go on a ghost tour at midnight. It was just a tourist attraction. And I was like, well, that's cool. I mean, I'm into the whole TV show thing, so it's all good. And they gave us meters to play with and all that stuff. But I don't know, the draw, I didn't have any pull to play with the meters. And I just kind of wanted to get out on my own, near the fort on the beach. And it's after midnight, so it's kind of a cool ambiance going on. And the environment was nice and comfortable. So I wandered out away from this group of people, and I got myself out onto the beach area, and I got the fort on my right. I'm facing to the south. And they say this, this castle this fort is haunted. There's activity. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happens, if anything. And I didn't actually say anything. I just wanted to go quiet into a space of my own and just see if I could sense anything. Now, there was another guy from the same group about 100 yards away from me, but minding his own business as well. And then all hell breaks loose.
Okay.
I just have to set this up. So I have a wall to my right, which is about 20 feet to my right. I have the water to my left, and that's, 40, 50 feet to my left. I'm basically on a beach, essentially.
Right.
There's nothing around. The guy is 100 yards away, and that's it. I'm literally just standing next to the wall, and I hear what sounds like rocks whistling past me. And I'm like, what?
So somebody's throwing rocks.
And I hear the rocks hitting the wall to my right. I'm like, who the heck is throwing rocks at me? Are you serious? I'm looking around, I'm scanning the whole area. I'm like, where's this? Who is this lunatic? And I can't find anything. And I'm like looking at the guy 100 yards away. I'm like, there's no way he can throw a pebble this far and then make it turn on a 90-degree angle. Ain't going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So I'm perplexed. Then the group leader kind of turns the corner and brings the group around. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and he's like, what's wrong? He knew something had happened. And I said, I'm confused. And he's like, can you explain? I said, sure. I said, I'm just standing here, and I'm hearing whistling, and I'm hearing what I swear is rocks hitting the wall behind me to my right. And he stopped and like looked at me like with this like OMG sensation, like uh-oh. And I'm like, do you know what this is? He's like, I think so. He says I'm standing next to the execution wall.
Oh boy. Okay. So you're picking up the history, I guess. Yeah.
In time to, the 1400 and whatever. They didn't use bullets. They used like rounds of muskets and all that, musket balls. But it made sense. When he said that, it clicked. And I said, that's awesome. I didn't get scared by it. I got curious. And it blew my mind that the paranormal was actually waking me back up, but not on the level of a voice. But it got me, I think the TV shows somehow got into the subconscious and manifested on the other side for them to come at me on the technical side of things, but with some sort of evidence, if that makes sense.
So you're currently capable of, I'm not forcing it, but can you sit down and say, I want to see the spirits, or does it have to come to you? Is it something you can initiate and definitely experience it, or is it something you have to wait to have happen?
Sure.
Meaning both?
Yeah. I can actually force something to happen. It's like this. When I was developing the skills, you need to know what you're capable of to say, okay, I can do this, I can't do that type of thing. I accidentally had an experience years later, and if you want, I can share. I wasn't always into sharing this because I didn't know. Because if people actually do what I'm about to tell you, I don't know which direction it goes, if that's positive or negative, but you can trick your subconscious into having a full-on experience. I've done it twice, but I stopped after the second time because it's a little freaky. Do you want me to share?
Sure, give it a shot. But when you say trick yourself, it's not that it's fake. It's just that you sort of like...
Oh, it's so...
Okay.
It's out there.
All right, go ahead.
So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
If you want to see the paranormal, it's totally possible. And now I can't say it's a guarantee because, and this will go into another... This is kind of off the cuff, because the pineal gland, if that thing's kind of clogged up, I can't promise anything will happen. But let's just say, for instance, we all know that your glands are clean and you're healthy and all that other stuff. If you want to experience the paranormal on a very small level, we're talking more along the lines of shadowy people. If you really want to see this stuff, I'm not going to recommend it. But if this is what you want to do, it's completely possible. So what you do is, in your house, this is something you're going to want to do by yourself. Okay? Make sure there's no other humans in the house. It doesn't matter with the pets. You're going to want to put on, this is a catch, but it is what it is. So, yes, I'm going to tell you. You're going to want to put on one of the paranormal TV shows. Okay?
All right.
But don't put it on in the room that you're in. This is going to sound completely nuts, but It works. Put it on in another room and turn down the volume. Don't turn it all the way off, though. You just want to be able to hear something, but not specifically what. Okay?
All right.
Then you go to another room and you mind your business and you start doing other things. Give it some time. Things will start happening. For some reason, the TV shows engage your subconscious and you won't know it. By the television shows, you're actually set an intention to see the paranormal. My experience twice was I had a large shadowy person walk between me and my desk. And it went really quick and it was really obvious.
So
I mean,
you say shadowy person, like a gray blur that you kind of see through. What can you? What was the
when I
visual
say
kind of like?
shadow person, it is literally you can see. It's not an apparition, but it's more like a shadow person. So you'll see. So if you know what your shadow looks like in the sunlight, think about that, but more on a 3D level, and you'll see like
Okay,
that sort of a shadow without a body if you're looking for it, or if you're not, something's going to happen. And literally, it can. I sit 3 inches from my desk, and the thing walked between me and the computer monitor. So, I mean, it was right here.
did it freak you out, or it was just sort of like, what the hell is that, or were you frightened?
I
Or
was
what?
like, "Come back!" Well, it goes by so fast. These
Yeah.
things are either in another dimension or it's just in my mind, but it's projecting an image so it looks like it's right in front of you. If that makes sense. So it's difficult. You can't communicate with them at all. But I mean, at the same time, I said come back because it was there and it was gone. But it is paranormal, so it is an experience. Feel free to try, and I have no idea what your outcome will be, but it is something to try. So when we talk about shadow persons, I've talked about this on prior shows. I've never had successful communication with a shadow person because my belief is it's literally just a shadow of a person in another dimension. The phenomenon is you get to see it in your dimension,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So
So it's not exactly what what some of us would consider a ghost. It's more like just an energy being, perhaps walking by.
I think it's more just a phenomenon of capturing some sort of energy field, but more just literally of a reflection of something. But this is not a spirit. And ghost to me, ghost is more of a Hollywood type, like a type word, like a buzzword, like
Right.
typecast. Like so, if you say something's, I'm trying to figure out the right word to say this. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in spirits. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Ghosts go more like with Hollywood movie and propaganda type of stuff. Spirits are real. Me and you will eventually be spirits. I mean, that is definitely a real reality. But, and when I was talking, should I even mention anything about the pineal gland?
Well, if
Pineal
you
gland?
go ahead, if you want to. I mean, we
I
have
just,
about
I,
6 to 7 minutes for the break, so go ahead.
so people that want to experience paranormal or any sort of type of paranormal or metaphysical, ask yourself, do you sleep really good? Because if you don't, there's a chance your pineal gland is the issue. Your pineal gland, there's pronounced different ways. And if you get on the internet and do an internet search for how to detox the pineal gland, you'll find all these detoxes. I recommend you try one, and you'll find out, A, if you start sleeping better, and B, if you start seeing things or having more better metaphysical experiences.
Okay.
The pineal gland can become toxified physically from fluoride and other heavy toxic metals.
And so there's certain kind of dietary functions you can do to sort of detox it and get some of that out.
The
And
one that worked best for me was potassium iodine in a liquid format.
okay.
And it's just drops in juice for a couple of weeks, and you'll start sensing changes. And if you're not sensing it, don't do potassium iodine if you have thyroid issues. That's a
Okay.
no-no.
All right.
But do your research on everything. I mean, everybody does research these days before they put anything in their system. So,
Hopefully,
but
yeah.
if it's not fluoride, you have to watch the heavy metals, and it's in everything. That's including food, shampoo, mouthwash. It's like in everything, and that's a whole nother show.
Okay. Well, yeah, we got a lot. We have a lot to get to, so we'll have to, you know, try to be careful if we don't go on too long about any one given topic. So,
Right.
I assume that your friends noticed differences in you. I mean, or your family, did they sit there and go, "Hey, Daniel, what's going on?"
Well, the reality is that yes. So the people I lived with at the time, my other half definitely knew I was changing. She was kind of changing along with me. I know it's weird. So if you live with somebody, like at the time, it was a girlfriend, and it's strange because I'll notice that I'm feeling different, and they'll start changing along with me. But sometimes In a lot of relationships, the other person doesn't believe in this stuff, and it creates one heck of a rift in the relationship.
Well, yeah, it can, sure.
And that's going to be a problem. But, they noticed I was changing, but they didn't say anything. There was no negative to it. I mean, they would just kind of like go with the flow. And it was never a big deal with the other family members. Now, family, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. A lot of people are skeptical of this stuff, my family being one of them. And I'm not talking about the girlfriend. We're talking about parents and siblings. And they kind of push back a bit. It is what it is. It happens a lot with metaphysical people.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely. I've seen it in friends and other people that have been on the air that I've interviewed. They talk about that. So they don't always know what's happened to their beloved son or brother or whatever it might be, or cousin. So it can be challenging, sure.
So after this experience, I mean, I was seeing in the same time frame, the early 2000s, I would see like in my peripheral vision, I would see something, but I couldn't identify what it was.
Okay.
And a lot of people will talk about, well, it starts in the peripherals and then it moves more toward the forward in front of you. Well, that takes a lot of time. I mean, you're talking about a lifelong process. None of this is overnight. There's no way.
Well, yeah, sure. You got to retune yourself, yeah. So, well, I know I've seen, I don't know if this is similar, but I know there's been times when after I've lost a cat, they've passed away, and I'll find for the next couple of months I'll see them around the apartment, and I know it's not my fantasy because I've seen my other cats act like something walked by them, So is that similar to what you're saying about seeing things out of the corner of your eyes?
Not like that. No, this was
okay.
literally. This was like I'm not a big fan of orbs, but it's entirely possible there are orbs kind of flying around behind me.
Okay.
I can elaborate on animal experiences, but that would come a lot later in the timeline, so to speak.
Oh,
so I don't
sure.
want to get into that right now.
Now I was just mentioning my particular experience with it, but yeah. So this is all changing for you, but meanwhile you're like holding a job and trying to live a relatively normal life at the same time, right?
I worked in a technology career for many, many years, 13 years, and it was somewhere in the middle of that career, this stuff was really bugging me because the empath hadn't really shown itself yet, but it had started to, and I didn't label myself an empath. I didn't even hear that terminology until many years later. And I just knew that I was different, and I came up with the term profiling. And I just thought I was profiling people because I was able to sense their negativity from a distance. Well, I mean, just by looking at a person from, 30 or 40 feet away in a company, I could tell that I could actually identify their attributes of negativity. It was really strange. I didn't know that what I was doing. But, we might call that psychometry today, but I didn't know.
But you thought you were doing something like an FBI profiler, where it's like
I didn't know what to call it.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Sure.
So I just said I must be profiling. I told that to my girlfriend, and she's like, "Cool. I mean, if it works for me and it keeps me safe." But I literally could. It was almost like looking up an AOL profile. But I wasn't looking up anything. I was just getting information, and it would be Mitch later identified that I was actually getting psychic information on people, but I didn't really understand the whole psychic phenomenon at the time.
Okay. This probably seems like as good a place to break as any. We're just about 30 minutes into the show. We're going to have 6.5 minutes of news and commercial. Then we'll be back for another 30 minutes, another hour total with Daniel. But first, a little bit of news and commercials, and we'll be right back.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
NPR podcasts are now available on every platform. Check out all our shows at npr.org/podcasts. That's npr.org/podcasts.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Barbara Klein. The Pentagon is extending the military deployment on the U.S.-Mexico border through September and is expanding its role. The military announced today it's providing personnel to operate security cameras and lay about 150 miles of concertina wire between official ports of entry. Airline passengers are waiting in longer security lines, and some checkpoints are closed down because of a shortage of TSA screeners at several of the nation's airports. A growing number of them are calling in sick while they go unpaid as the partial government shutdown continues. As Casey Kuhn of member station KJZZ reports, a food pantry near the Phoenix airport stepped in today to help some of the TSA workers.
An Arizona food bank brought 25,000 pounds of food to bag and give out, like cereal, produce, milk, and eggs. Furloughed federal workers have gone 3 weeks without a paycheck. TSA officer Debbie Cherry, who has 2 young children and is pregnant with twins, says she'll keep going to work even without pay.
I've been dipping into my savings and taking care of all of my prenatal and maternity needs, but we're not able to actually replenish any of those. It's been stressful.
Food pantry officials say hundreds more people than usual are coming into the food banks daily since the government shut down. For NPR News, I'm Casey Kuhn in Phoenix.
Thousands of Los Angeles public school teachers went on strike today. They're demanding smaller class sizes and more staffing. They're also protesting the proliferation of charter schools. Anna Scott of member station KCRW went to the picket line at a middle school that shares classrooms with charter schools.
Teachers marched in the rain outside Daniel Webster Middle School. But it was business as usual for 2 charters that share the campus. Jeff Williams is one of the teachers on strike.
It's really like having Burger King and McDonald's exist in the same building. They are competitors, but the district acts like we're not in a competition. We are cohabitating with them.
LA Unified has authorized more independent charters than any other school district in the country, 224. This strike is about class sizes and the number of nurses in schools, among other things. But for some, it's also a referendum on charters, which compete for students and dollars. For NPR News, I'm Anna Scott.
House Republicans say they're blocking fellow Republican Congressman Steve King from committee assignments for 2 years. The move is punishment for King's recent comments to the New York Times, questioning why the phrases white nationalist and white supremacist have become offensive. This is NPR. House Democrats say they're launching a sweeping investigation of the pharmaceutical industry's pricing practices. Lawmakers are demanding information from 12 drug makers about how they come up with prices and their strategies for hanging on to market share. An art exhibit on the grounds of New York City's World Trade Center is being moved to a new location. As NPR's Joel Rose reports, the installation has drawn complaints from 9/11 victim groups.
The exhibit is called Candy Nations. It depicts the flags of each of the G20 countries, including the green flag of Saudi Arabia, as 9-foot-tall wrapped candies. It was installed last month in the Oculus, one of the new buildings on the World Trade Center site in Lower Manhattan. But the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey now says it will relocate the exhibit to JFK Airport after complaints about displaying the Saudi flag at the former site of the Twin Towers. 15 of the September 11th hijackers were Saudis. Hundreds of victims' relatives and injured survivors have sued the Saudi government, which has long denied any involvement in the attacks. Joel Rose, NPR News, New York.
The International Paralympic Committee says it's disappointed by Malaysia's decision to deny visas to Israeli swimmers. Malaysia is due to host a qualifying event in July for the 2020 Paralympics. Malaysia's Prime Minister, who's been critical of Israel's dealings with Palestinians, says if IPC officials want to pull the competition out of his country, they can. I'm Barbara Klein, NPR News in Washington.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend.
my humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place. And then they act so surprised when I find them. But I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
My name is Ruth Rusi, and this is how I live United. I read to children as part of United Way's education program. It helps them create links between language and literacy and prepares them for a better academic future. I figure I have the time and they have the need. My name is Ruth Rusi. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And we are back on the air. This is Cosmic Tuesdays. Today is January 14th, 1954. And I do want to mention, if you want to go to Daniel's website, it's Vega Star Healings, VEGA Star Healings, HEALINGS.com, and you can find out a bit more about all the adventures and stuff he does. Distance energy healing, help for people, pets, locations, all kinds of things. Daniel, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back.
Ready to talk some more.
So phase 2, you're getting used to this stuff, or maybe getting used to it isn't the right term. You're experiencing these things, and they keep developing, right?
Yes, it keeps going. Went through a hardship around 2005, and I had a dream from a deceased family member, and it was. I don't understand why people have to go through hardships for stuff to happen. It's really strange. I don't get it. But anyway, so I had a dream about my grandmother. And she had been deceased since the early 90s. And it was so vivid. To me, it wasn't a dream. It was really happening. And sometimes, a majority of the time when I dream, you don't know you're dreaming. But I saw my grandmother, and she indicated to me that my life is about to change completely and get ready for travel. I woke up. I got upset because it was amazing to see my grandmother so vivid and healthy and young, and it didn't occur to me that she passed away as an old lady, but I saw a young woman in front of me, and for some reason I identified with her immediately who it was. And I would say within about 6 to 8 months I was gone out of Florida and on my way to Arizona, and started a life here. And then stuff really started to happen. And the next amazing, mind-boggling experience was I was with family members out here in Arizona, and I was just starting a new chapter in my life. And they said, we got to go shopping at a mall this weekend. Do you want to go? I said, sure. This is going to knock your socks off, by the way.
Okay.
And we go to the mall, and it's like, March 2007, okay?
All right.
And just keeping a timeline here. The weather was mild outside, and we go to the mall. There's nobody there. It's a Saturday, early morning. And they say, you go do your thing, and we'll see you back here in a couple hours. I said, okay. So I start walking around a mall, and the mall out here was a big, kind of looked like a track. It went in a huge circle. And out of nowhere, I'm walking just as you do in the mall, and there's stores left and right of me, and out of nowhere, it was kind of like a television screen lowers down in front of me.
Okay.
I don't even know how else to explain this. And it was more physical than I had never seen anything like this before. This was completely like WTF, like, huh? It was translucent too. I could see through the screen. I could still see everything.
Okay.
But I think I'm getting an echo. Let me back up a little bit. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I do. Yeah, okay. I can hear you fine.
So, and what I noticed on this screen is something was wrong. I was looking to this at the stores on my right and left, and the screen indicated stores, but it wasn't the same stores that were right next to me. They seem to be stores way ahead of me.
Ahead of you, meaning like in the distance, or
in the distance, like 30 or 40 paces ahead of me.
Okay.
Echo. And just in here, I was like, okay, this is weird. And the screen actually made a left turn, and I'm still going straight. The screen makes a left turn.
Okay.
And there's it would look like the start of the food court area. And I'm like, what the freak? And I'm like, this is cool. I'm like, all right, I don't know what in the world this is. And then I saw this guy with a camouflage jacket on, long, and big baggy pants. Now it's March and it was cool out, so I kind of, all right, makes sense. I don't know, it looked a little heavy for me, but dark-skinned man, got his back against the wall, 1 foot up, like he's resting. He's got his arms crossed. And then it shows the guy actually coming at the screen, just walking briskly. And then it actually shows the guy hit the screen, and you see him lift a wallet from somewhere. And then there's exit doors, and he kind of burns rubber and runs out the doors. And I'm like, and then the screen disappears. It's gone. I'm like, dang it, what the heck? Okay. And so, if you can see where this is going, I make the left, and I'm like, I got shivers. There's the guy that I just saw on the screen. I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
It gave me the most amazing tingles I've ever felt in my life. But, so, here we go. I'm walking, and the same way that the screen depicted, I'd be walking. But I'm mesmerized that there's a guy right there. And then, oddly enough, he starts walking in my direction. And then, stupid me says, I got to see where this is going to go.
All right.
There's a positive ending here, but it's the ramp up that's insane. He's coming in close. I'm excited because I've just seen my future potential happen. And he's coming at me, minding his business, so to speak. And then I'm having this amazing sensation starts to explode around me. It's hard to describe. It's as if every spirit in the world is yelling at you to wake up at the same time but there's no voice. Okay. Excuse me. It was just an energy sensation. And he got within about 2 feet, and then I did the unthinkable. And I know there's no way he saw this coming. So his idea was to bump me and take my wallet, and I did check my wallet. It was in my back pocket. So I do the unthinkable. I just stopped walking, and I broke the pattern, brainwave pattern. He actually would have normally hit me and taken my wallet. I saw this happening.
Right.
But I stopped walking, and he actually landed. He kept walking in front of me and did not know what in the world just happened. And he didn't know what to do. It was as if an alarm went off in his head, like panic.
Like somebody's onto him.
He hightailed it to my left in the direction he was walking, and he shot into like a boutique. And I actually did something I wasn't expecting. I turned and I looked at him, and I gave him the greatest smile.
All right.
And almost like an eye wink, like, I think I know something more than you. And from what I gather is I was being given privileged information, almost like a psychic prediction.
So you
I have never seen this screen happen since. That is something I discovered on this journey, that the OMG moments, you better get a good hug in, embrace them, because it's a good chance you're never going to have this again. So these are almost turning points in my life, that, bullet points, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I have never seen this screen since that event. But it changed my life forever, because I knew at that exact moment I was different. That all this other stuff, and I do want to mention one more thing that I actually forgot about. But all this stuff has been working, it's been going somewhere with this. There's a procession of events. I wanted to mention, if it's all right, I wanted to back up about a year or two earlier.
Okay, go ahead.
I had an experience that I think other people will resonate with. If you're familiar with the 11s, there was about a 9-month period in my life that I could not, this was just crazy. For some reason, I would continuously wake up on a clock. It would be something at 11, 2:11, 3:11, whatever.
Okay.
And I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was cursed or something. And it went on for months, and I just said, I don't want to look at digital clocks. I would tape, cover them up, whatever. And didn't know what that, excuse me, I know what that means today, but I didn't know what it meant back then. And so there was I would see the 11s everywhere. I would see it on gas station pumps, like randomly, arbitrarily, just pull up and there's the 11. I was like, oh, okay. That's strange. Or, it could be at an address, but totally by random. There's something 11. And then, I tried to ignore this 11 because I didn't want to have anything to do with this 11 thing. And then one day came and I'm driving on the interstate and something just told me to look left. And I look left and there's this giant school bus, a big, long school bus. And painted on the side of the bus from bumper to bumper is all ones. And I was like, all right, somebody is trying to get a hold of me. Add that to the experience. FYI, if you see repetitive numbers, there's messages from the other side waiting for you. That's your voicemail indicators.
Okay.
So just an FYI.
So, but at this point, you haven't really contacted anybody or tried to learn about this. You were just sort of experiencing this stuff.
I was just going with the flow.
Okay, just checking.
I did not contact anybody. We've all had fortune tellers read our stuff at fairs, and I did that for fun, but I never took it seriously.
Okay.
Never really manifested into anything. So I relocated to Arizona, and I was still into the paranormal TV shows, and I said, I want to step this up a level. I met up with these guys that were forming a group for paranormal investigation, and I joined it. I told them I want to debunk everything, and they said, okay. This didn't go well. This did not go in my favor. But this is a good thing, but I went out to debunk things, and I couldn't do this. So, I'm just going to kind of skip the boring stuff and jump right to a situation, just one experience. It was toward the end of my period with this group. I was investigating with a bunch of other people. There were cameras on us, and I was sitting on a bar stool looking at a Spanish fireplace. There was another guy in front of me, another gentleman. Mm-hmm. We're facing each other trying to canvass the room. The room is dark-ish. All the power is off. And the owner of the house, there was bar stools in a house, it's allowed. And he said he's had strange anomalies in the living room that we were in. We were like, okay. So I'm facing the fireplace, and the gentleman in front of me is canvassing everything behind me. So we've got the room covered, and there's cameras watching us, and then people watching the cameras behind the scenes. And it was totally quiet in the room, and then all hell breaks loose. Okay. I literally watched a woman walk directly out of a fireplace, walk right past me, and keep on going. And I'm like, I saw the torso up, no arms, but I saw the torso and the head, and the guy saw the legs. And the people in the back rooms knew something had changed because our boredom face went to complete sheer pandemonium. And it was completely wild. Now, when I say a woman walked out of a fireplace, it didn't look like our skin color. It looked like a moving shadow apparition. Kind of like this was more than the shadow that was generated, we talked about earlier.
Right.
This was actually looking like a human shadow because I saw a short, heavy-set female. She had the hairline, she had the chest, the hips, the whole deal. And I'm sitting on a bar stool. It couldn't have been more than 5 feet tall, myself included, and this thing walked right past me. It never even looked at me, though. It just kept on going as if I wasn't there. And the speed of it was insane. If you've ever been in the newer airports and you see the flat escalators that shoot you between the terminals and you walk against the flow, it looks like they're shooting past you. It was the exact same feeling.
Okay.
If that helps to explain the speed. and the velocity of this thing walking. And I was like, okay, it's real. There's something here. I mean, this is crazy. There's something here. And shortly after that experience, I ended up leaving the group. But it's okay because I ended up walking or meeting up with a Psychic 101 class.
Okay.
Which got me into some other experiences. They didn't teach me how to be a psychic. They taught me how to identify things that are already happening in my life.
Okay, in light of that, just for a quick pause,
Sure.
Somebody asked, when they see the numbers, how do you know what message they want to get to you? Is there any tip? You want to do that later? You want to mention it now?
My only experience was with the ones.
Okay.
And I ended up in that psychic group. This was kind of like, it's like a tease, like with a fishing rod, and you have the bait in front where they're kind of leading me along.
Okay.
If you do see repeating numbers, get yourself to somebody who will provide you with angel messages. That's
okay. All right.
And just see what's out there. I mean, you might learn something, you might not. There's no way I don't do that sort of reading, but that's what's going on. So it is your psychic voicemail, so to speak.
Okay. So you got the Psychic 101 class, just to get back to
Psychic 101 class was a wild, trippy thing because, I didn't know anything, so to speak, but actually I did. I actually knew so much, it was mind-boggling. I actually already knew how to do psychometry, and that is reading objects by photograph or by, somebody brings in an object and you read it.
Right.
And, I learned some telepathy. I learned, remember, they don't tell you exactly how to do it. They just tell you, these are the experiences that happen. See what matches in your life.
Right.
And, there was a guy in the class, and he said for me to read him, and I said, I have no idea how to read you. And he's like, yes, you do. And I said, no, I don't. Back and forth. And then I read what I closed my eyes, and the first thing that popped in there was something really negative, and I said, I don't want to say this. And it was just a negative mannerism that he's apparently known for, and I didn't know him from a hole in a wall. And he got me to say the word, and he freaked out and left the group. So I said, all right, I guess it was legit. And I don't want to go into it, but it was negative all the way around. But I was able to identify it, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And, things kind of went from there. That was around the 2008, 2009 period. And then going forward from there, I met other people that were in this group, and this same group of people were the ones that actually identified me as being the walk-in, and then they explained the whole walk-in process. I don't know. I mean, they explained it from their perception.
Right.
It's an accident typically in a period of unconsciousness. And if something's going to happen, that's when it happens. And it's a slow turnaround. I mean, you and I held we did another show a few years ago about walk-ins.
Right.
And I mean, there's different types of walk-ins. Okay. But I mean, I don't go crazy with labels and all that stuff these days. But I do tell people that this is my story. I mean, this is what people told me. I didn't give myself the name of walk-in. Other people did, because my attributes matched their quote-unquote classic symptoms or signs of a walk-in. I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm a walk-in. Now what?
Yeah. Right, now what do you do? So what do you do for Act 2 and Act 3?
I didn't get a membership card on it, so I'm like, whatever. So going forward from there, now we're going to kind of fast forward into how I became a healer. This actually got started from a dream state.
Okay.
And in 2010, I had a crazy dream that I was standing over a person with my arms out, and they were, quote, being healed. And I didn't know what healing was at the time. And when I broke out of the dream, I knew a Reiki person at the time. I didn't do Reiki, but I knew of a Reiki person. I contacted her and I said, what do I do with this? And she said, well, why don't you come to a Reiki share and we'll see what's what. I said, okay. So I go to a Reiki share, and the guy on the massage table says, just do whatever the posture was in the dream and we'll see if anything happens. I said, cool. So I do it, and he freaks out.
Okay.
And he's like, what are you doing? I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. You tell me what I did. And he's like, you're moving energy. I'm like, okay, I have no idea other than a posture. And my focus, which I didn't know at the time was my intention, was to heal or to move energy or whatever. And the lady took me to the side and she's like, you have a gift. It's just not trained. You're going to take the next several years of your life and work this because you have a gift. Use it and love it. I thought she was crazy, but, you know.
Okay.
I ended up going home with an interesting viewpoint, and it was wacky because the girl I was living with at the time had a headache. And I said, well, let's see what comes of this. So I did the posture over the girl, and her headache was gone within about, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. And we're talking like migraine level.
Wow.
And I didn't say, I must have done it. I didn't say that. For me, just because it happens one time doesn't mean anything. It could have been a fluke.
Right.
So we just kind of took notice over time. When she would get headaches, I would do the posture, and the headache pain would go away. It would literally reduce from a heavy migraine to just a mild headache to nothing in minutes. And she's like, you're doing this. Because I didn't take any meds and blah, 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 blah. I was like, that's weird. And I said, all right, maybe there's something to this whole thing. And then I joined up these, they have meetup groups out here. And I joined these groups. I went to meditations. I got into that stuff. And I would meet people and start networking. And over time, they figured out that I was able to heal pain. And just, you know, it's just for fun. They would come over, these ladies would come over and said, can you heal my arthritis? I don't know. I said, I can try this posture that's been working and we'll see. And I would do the posture and they said, you're relieving my pain. Thank you. I don't know. I just went with the flow here. I was like, is it psychosomatic? I don't know. I'm doing a posture. Are they getting relief from me or because they're, you know, is because of conversations, something happening and they just feel better? I don't know. However, going forward from there, I started to learn about the chakra system and what chakras look like. I was able to, with a pendulum, I was able actually, you can actually see the pendulums, the flow of energy with a pendulum. You can't physically see them. Like, you're not going to see a spongy pendulum. Spongy chakra, but you can actually see the flow of energy from a chakra.
Yeah.
If you have somebody lay down on a bed and you take the pendulum and you hold it a couple inches from the body and you run it from head to, crown to root, go slow, you'll actually feel the pendulum pull and then it'll start to spin, and that's the chakra flow.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, you could do this on your wife. I mean, it works. You just have to be extremely patient with it.
I have a pendulum, but I've never used it in that way. But I wouldn't be surprised.
I used to do demonstrations with this. It is awesome. And I was able to take the technique of identifying the chakra energy and I actually took that to a map because, I mean, this goes into later things.
Like a body map, or what do you mean a map?
This is going to jump subjects here.
Well,
but
we're getting close to break time, so it's up.
Switch.
It's up.
We want to get a little deeper here, so maybe we'll hold.
Okay.
That'll be an intro.
Sure. We have about a little over 2 minutes of commercials, and so take a quick break, everybody, and we'll meet you back here shortly after that to take Daniel to the end of the show. So here we go.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Ranger Station.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting in the forest. 1 second, I'm having a smoke. Next thing I know, I'm face-to-face with Smokey Bear.
Wow.
And he told me it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
Did you know 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans?
I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous and you're not. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
I'm Fidel Nshambo. I was born in a city called Bukavu in the Congo.
We were a loving family, and then
boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ball in street? Girl in street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And we are back with Cosmic Tuesdays on January 14th, 2019. The last time I accidentally identified the year as 1954. I'm not time traveling. Today's my birthday, and that's how old I am. I was born in 1954, so I was confused. I thought it was 65 years ago. Daniel, welcome back. Energy fields and how did this spread out? I mean, as you're learning about the chakras? Yeah, go ahead.
So let's just jump forward. I mean, we can bounce back if we have to. So I took the technique of finding chakras to an atlas, if you can believe this. And I don't know exactly what was the reason to do this originally, other than some internal thought. And over time, I had noticed that my empath abilities would really fire up when I was in or around crowded areas, and I was getting really negative sensations. And what I was picking up on was negative energy. And for instance, going to a department store, a Walmart or something like that, and it's kind of a funky crowd in those places. Energy fields. I just want to talk about this real quick. Negative energy and energy fields go together. So negative energy, what is it? Negative energy is actually from humans. You'll figure. Human beings carry about 1% of negative energy at all times because we have to, because to express some sort of emotion requires negative energy, sad, anger, whatever. And if you didn't have it, you'd be a robot. When a human body passes away, that negative energy or frequency will rise out of the aura and body, and it does not go on the journey with the human soul and consciousness. It stays here on this third dimensional plane. Chakras, I didn't really get into this, but we're just going to do a speedy crash course on chakras. So we have 7 chakras in every human, and animals have them as well. When these chakras are spinning and strong, there's no big deal. But when they decline in their speed and become energy blocked, they attract. Law of attraction will attract negative or positive things, and that includes negative energy. So when the body passes away, the nurses, doctors, whoever, police, whoever finds this body, they have chakras. The negative energy, based on law of attraction, will jump on their chakras. This is how it gets transported. Energy fields, chakras are actually miniature energy fields. Your house has an energy field. Your car has an energy field. Basically, anything physical has an energy field. It just depends on the size.
Sure. Makes sense.
The more negative energy is on your chakras, when you enter these other bigger energy fields, law of attraction. If it's a bigger, stronger field, the negative energy will then jump off your chakras and attach to its energy field, or whatever energy field you're in.
Right.
Over time, and depending the frequency of people coming in and going out, energy is dynamic. It is not static. So it's always in movement. Over time, this negative energy will accumulate inside of a house. I'm just going to use a house as an example. And over time, I determined through a lot of research that 76 or more negative energies is bad. Anything below that isn't really noticeable. And when I say noticeable, this is going to be your more empathic people or energy sensitive people. If you are not energy sensitive, don't worry about it. You won't know anything. So if it is increasing over 76, you will have signs and symptoms of odd issues like emotional instability, but only in your house. you'll have to sense the contrast once you leave your house. Things may return to normal. But when you come back within about an hour, if the energy is really bad, you're going to know it. You're going to start acting strange. If you live by yourself, you may suffer some weird form of depression. But once you leave the house, everything returns to normal. Coming back in, it starts again. If you live with family members, it may be more of an animosity toward other members of the family, but there's no source. That's the kicker. If you know why you're angry at a person, that's not part of this. It's when you don't know why you're angry, or you don't know why you're having constant issues with another member. That could be a source of negative energy. And that's within the energy fields, if that makes sense. So, go ahead.
No, I'm. So, I mean, you say negative energy field. Are entities involved too, or is it just energy? Is there a? Because I'm thinking, sometimes negative spirits or whatever might come in and poison the atmosphere. So
I'm going to keep this nice and light, but this does go extremely deep, extremely quickly. Think of the dimensions like pages in a book, and all the dimensions are smushed together. If you can somehow imagine and visualize turning the book on its side, you can see individual pages. So negative energy is on one layer. However, when it gets to an excessive level, it attracts more negative energy. What happens when it gets ridiculous, though? It actually will start to attract other things. And
other things, okay.
Other things, bad things. So I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but there are other things out in the universe other than humans. I'm just going to say it. There are negative beings out there.
Okay.
It is not spirit level. That's on another layer. The spirits are the spirits are there too, and they're all in their individual dimensions. So if you're looking at this straight on, everything's in front of you. But if you turn it on its side, you can actually see where the separation is.
Okay.
I know it's going to be difficult to do, but this is part of the psychic work. Negative beings are just technically energy. In their own dimension, they may have more of a physical topology to them, or a physical layer. But in our dimension, it's just going to be felt as extreme negativity. And the reality is they can attack humans. Now, they can't physically attack them, but they can energetically attack them. And when I say this, there may be people out there that would resonate with this. They can actually do violent acts to humans. But in reality, the human won't know what in the world's happening. Spirits can do this, but it's not that common. Spirits are more interested. It's the same stuff, though. So they're, with intention, they can move the energy. So everybody has an aura or an energy field, and they can touch our aura. So they can only manipulate the energy, but that can actually manifest fast, and you'll feel it physically.
So when you say violent, you're not saying like a spirit, this negative being actually punches you as much as it just sort of like gets into your aura, gets into your energy, and kind of twists things a little bit. Is that maybe a way to put it?
Actually, you hit the nail with the hammer before.
Okay.
The negative entity, call it, can actually they can punch you, but you're not going to feel it as a punch. You're going to feel it as an energy push. But if you're not expecting it, it will literally throw you. But it's actually you throwing yourself because you've just been kind of shocked. So startled may be a better word. And it doesn't hurt. There's no pain here. I have actually been punched by, I would say, an entity. And it was under an odd situation, but I've been punched in the back of my head by an entity. But there was absolutely no pain involved. It just threw me off a couch, and I was ready for combat, but there's nothing there. And what I actually determined, what ended up happening was another thing in another dimension violently used energy on me, and it felt just like a smack, but with energy. It feels really strange. Until you start having experiences, you won't be able to relate to this. But just remember this, there's no pain. It will just startle the crap out of you, and you're ready for the end of the world to happen, and then looking at an empty room. It's like, what in the world's going on here?
It's a funny thing, but there have been times when I've been drifting off to sleep, and suddenly I'm like, what I would say almost smacked awake. And I'm like, what was that about? And I'm guessing that this sounds like what you're talking about. Where like I didn't feel anything, but it was just something like, I'm just drifting off to sleep, and it's like, boom, I'm awake. And it just feels like I was pushed out of the dream state is the best way to put it.
Sounds to me more like that would be spirit trying to wake you up, saying, hey, you need to be awake right now.
Okay.
Something's going on in the element of wherever you are, and we're just going to help out.
Right.
And that would be like a spiritual guide, so to speak. But they have the ability to just, that's a mild interaction. And it gets, with me, unfortunately with me, you have to go through the extremes to find out what you're dealing with. And it just is what it is. And a lot of it is unpleasant. I don't recommend anybody do this, but I am kind of already obligated into this entire thing. So I just walk into the unknown. I have a lot of tools with me. I have my own radar system. I consider having an empath ability like radar. So you get to see, it's more like a sensory level radar. So you can sense ahead of time what you're getting into.
Okay.
With the technique with the map, what I was going to mention earlier is
right.
I can actually, before I go hiking or something, I will actually scan with my pendulum on a map and an S-turn formation along a map to see if anomalies are pulling on the pendulum. And if they are, I will use an ability to, it's more or less an empath psychic ability to identify anomalies inside the field. And it will actually paint me a circle of how big the field of energy is and what's going on and how many negative energies are there. And are there other anomalies there? And I'll actually have to distance clear them before I go out to that trail.
Right.
Because if I don't do anything, they can actually assault me.
And you want to pass on that, yeah.
It's not anything you want to repeat, but you have to go through it eventually if you're going to get into this line of work.
Yeah.
Because you need to know what you're going to be avoiding in the future. And if I'm going through it, more than likely other people are too, and they're freaked out because they don't know what it is. So if you're an empath and you pass through a really nasty energy field, you're going to know it. Your stomach's going to turn. You're going to think it'll attack your solar plex first. And it'll be turning your stomach over, and you're thinking you're either going to have a panic attack, you are going to get sick and nauseated. Sometimes you'll develop an immediate migraine headache within minutes. Your system is telling you to get out, get away.
Okay.
Backtrack, go up, turn around and hightail it out of there. And I have discovered these energy fields. Now, so the kicker is this. These energy fields are all over the place. And again, like I said, it's attracted by negative energy off people and we're transporting this and that. But I've discovered these on hiking trails that are really, really far away from people. They're really populated with a lot of negative energy, and it makes no sense why this is. So the universe definitely drops hints to me about what else is going on. And it's not all fun and games. I mean, a lot of this is disgusting stuff. And a lot of things that I've researched and figured out, I understand why people are the way they are. And to stay in this line of work, you really have to be sensitive to other people's needs. And you have to be a really good listener.
I would imagine.
And, I take my abilities and I can scan their energy and determine kind of ahead of time what's going on with them. And it's not always the easiest thing to explain to them.
Okay, now, just as a heads up, we have about 10 minutes left. I know there's a couple of different things you wanted to get to. So if you want to jump ahead to anything you want to cover before we head off the air, now is the time to do it if you have something in particular you want to talk about.
The two events, Anthony, do you think it's appropriate at this time?
We could try it. If you want to just loosely talk about the events that happened to you recently, I found them kind of interesting. I don't know if other people might, but it's certainly what Daniel's up to today, what's happening to you now. So it's up to you.
Okay, we're just this is going to be a tangent, but just this week, I had 2 contact experiences. And when I talk about contact, let's just say it's not spirits, it's something else, but it's not negative either. Excuse me, I woke up, I went to sleep, and I didn't quite wake up all the way, but I definitely wasn't in a deep sleep. And I had the sensation, it wasn't just a sensation. At the footer of my bed is a tabletop fan sitting up on top of a breakfast table.
Okay.
It's small and it's loud. It creates white noise on purpose. I heard this fan move on its own. It went to the left, and I sleep on the left side of a bed, and it went down the bed or up toward my head, the noise. And accompanying the noise was the sensation of lift. And at the time, I couldn't be rational because I couldn't tell if I was awake or not. But I'm talking to myself, so it was a semi-conscious experience. And then everything kind of stopped and settled down, and I woke up, but I was exhausted, and I couldn't fall back to sleep. And then during the day, I'm sorry we didn't get into this, but I had a mediumship experience with a person who told me what actually happened to me.
Okay.
Or not what, but told me kind of why it happened, and they told me it was an intervention for a future event is going to happen, but they had to precondition me. And the really crazy part is I asked them how long was I gone for, and they said 25 minutes. And I said, is there another dimension in play? And they said, yes. And how long was I gone in that dimension? They said 11 and a half hours. And I was like, okay, here we go with the whole time travel thing.
Yeah.
And I just let it go at that. I don't question this stuff. It's kooky, but I just write down my notes and go from there. Last night, or the next day, I'm sorry, not last night, 2 nights ago, I go to sleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night, I open my eyes, and I'm expecting to see a dark room, and I don't. I see a very lit room that's silver in nature, silvery white color all over the place. And I'm like, holy cow, what? And I realized right away, I am not in the room that I started in. I actually thought I crossed over.
Okay.
I am not in the same room that I began my night. And what I was looking at, I saw a lot of objects that were moving in front of me, but I could not make heads or tails of what they were. And I saw lines, what would be represented as almost like a window with seams in the window. I saw the lines, and they were kind of curving. And then it dawned on me, am I on a ship looking out of a window, on like a bubble window? And I don't know for a fact if I was or wasn't, but I was awake. And I was like, are you kidding me? But then something happened, and I blacked out and woke up the next day.
Okay.
So when I have had these elevated experiences, it's short in nature and time frame. And it's got to be extremely high frequency that I'm experiencing. Something is happening. So
it's short. It's short.
There's no negativity, though. There is absolutely no negativity. I'm very positive about the experiences, and I actually asked for them to be repeated.
So it's short in duration here, but like apparently in the other dimensions, you're going for like hours at a time. So there's this interesting time switching going on.
This was 2 different events, and I don't know what happened on the first one.
Okay.
But they're allowing me to retain some memory, but it's not all of it, and probably because my brain's not conditioned for it.
Yeah, I could understand that. You know, there's some people that feel that when we dream, we actually experience more dimensions than the 4 or 5 we have here, and as a result, it's very difficult to remember the dreams, because how do you remember 27 dimensions when you're only like picking up like 3D or 4D life? So I can understand why they may not, show you specifically what's going on necessarily.
Do we have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, we have about 12 minutes till we go. Need about a couple of minutes at the end for, sign off, but other than that.
All right, you tell me when to stop talking. I wanted to just go over about haunted houses and what they are and what they are not.
Okay.
And we're jumping around here. I know there's no lead up to this, but so anybody who's experiencing a haunted house in the interest that things are moving around on their own, your keys are going missing, There's loud bangs and knocks. Everything comes down to the same thing. It's just more than likely human beings on the other side as spirits trying to make contact with you because of some situation that has arisen. But here's the reality. That situation may not actually be current yet because the spirits have the ability to go forward in time and backward in time, but I'm just not convinced they have control over that. So they may not be looking at the current timeline, if that makes sense. They may see an illness in a member of the family, but it's impossible for them to say how far in the future it is. But if that family member is actually in that energy field, they're trying to make contact with you. And usually it will begin with something light at first, like turning a picture frame or just subtle little changes in your house. But 99% of the time, nobody notices this. So then it gets a bit more aggressive. And they'll start. So most of your doors are on joints, like cabinet doors, right, or a door of the bathroom or something. It's already on something that can move. They get creative. So they'll open up panel doors. They'll do this. They will sometimes make knocking noises. I have found a lot of ways to rule out noise and all that, so I don't really entertain the noise aspect of it. But these are people. Think of it. If somehow you end up and you don't know how you got there, and you see somebody you know, but for whatever reason you're yelling and screaming and they have no idea you're there, you're going to somehow figure out how to manipulate energy. Sure. And that's exactly what's happening in these houses. There's no such thing as a haunted house. It's just people trying to communicate from another dimension. And it takes certain experts to identify these people. And usually it's going to come down to a medical reason why they're making contact. Now, when we talk about negative spirits, they're not quite negative. They've just entered the wrong energy field and they're stuck there for some reason. I have found that there are spirits that committed crimes and were kind of killed during the crime. Well, the human was killed during the crime, went right into spirit form, light body, entered a field of energy, which could be somebody's real house, and they don't make themselves known for a long time. Then they make themselves known and nobody knows what in the world's happening. They could pull me into this situation. I can actually identify if the spirit's connected to the family or not. And if they're not, one of the techniques I've learned is how to dismiss the spirit. And that's another whole story. But if the spirit is connected to the family, I don't do anything. It's up to the family to hire a medium, a different sort of medium, and figure things out. I'll tell the family ahead of time, if it's not a medical reason, you're going to have to bring in somebody else. But okay. It's a good starting point.
Well, we have some questions in the chat room, which is there's two of them. I'll just say them both at the same time. Why can they see us, but we can't see them? And in their dimension, they are more advanced? ? Or what? Yeah, go ahead.
Some people can see them based on the pineal gland status. Some people cannot. It is what it is. I don't always, quote, see them. I sense them, and I do attribute scans to identify things. So not everything is going to be an eyeball visual thing. Does it happen? Yes. But it doesn't. Everybody's unique. A lot of the psychics and mediums, they're all unique. So whatever your thing is, some people don't see them, they hear them. I can hear them, but I don't want to hear them because, it's weird. This is going to sound rude, but the spirits are really rude. They don't have any common sense. They're constantly in demand mode, and I don't need it. So I actually will refer that sort of work out.
Okay. Now, is there anything like your average Joe could do to protect themselves from negative spirits or negative energies? Is there something you can do on your own to sort of prevent that kind of negative accumulation or negative spirits entering your life?
That's going to be more on the crystal level. And I don't know a whole lot about that crystal work. I could definitely get people on your show for that sort of thing.
Oh, sure.
But there's a lot of crystal, I think tourmaline that will actually help some of that negative energy to steer clear. But I can't make 100% saying this is what it is. There is also, excuse me, on my website, I offer an intention protection. If you go to the website and you go and identify in the menu, I think it's under the More section, M-O-R-E, there is an intention. You can state a daily intention to protect your aura. Is this going to work for everybody? No, but it's a good start.
Okay, sounds good. We do have about 5 minutes left, so we're going to wrap up. Daniel, honestly, people, Daniel could probably fill 3 hours of a show, at least with the drop of a hat. Check out the website, www.vegastarhealings, VEGASTARHEALINGS.com. There's many things he hasn't talked about in the show because we have 90 minutes. I do want to mention next week we're having back Chris Batts, B-A-T-T-S. He was in the show about 13 or 14 months ago. He is an NDE survivor, a near-death experience person, and the first time he was on the show, he was just going public with his experiences, and so we're going to catch up with him a year later. He's in the middle of writing a book and see what he's learned in the past year or so. Also, listeners, you know that at the beginning of the show and the end of the show I play music. That music is by Mike Freeman, Zona Vibe, and you can find out jazzvibe.com, JAZZVIBE.com is where you can check out his recordings and listen to samples of his music and buy the stuff if you are so inclined. So before we end with a piece of one of Mike's songs, I'm just wondering, is there anything in particular, any last minute of anything you want to say about anything in particular that you think people should know?
We are in an ever-changing world.
Okay.
Control what's only right in your inner circle. Don't worry about everything else. It's too hard.
Just stay focused on your immediate area. Okay.
Stay focused on you and your family. That's the only stuff you can control. I mean, with all this negativity that's happening in politics and our world today, it's extremely distracting. And stay the course.
Yeah, we do seem to be in a bit of upheaval these days, so stay focused on your personal stuff. Sounds good. So we're going to end with a bit of a song called Clutch the Hutch from the recent album by Mike Freeman, Zona Vibe, called Venetian Blinds. So enjoy this, and we'll see you next week. So have a good evening. Thank you very much, Daniel. Talk to you soon.